Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today on the podcast, I want to speak about something that has been whirling around in my head for quite a bit. I want to talk plainly about it, but from a quiet sense that I've been carrying, noticing, and feeling grow, perhaps over the past decade. And I want to talk about this not as someone with all the answers, certainly not from a podium, but shoulder to shoulder with all of us, everyone across the UK Fire and Rescue Service. From the newest firefighter still finding their feet on red watch wherever, to the control room operator managing chaos with calm, the HR business partner helping shape the culture, the community fire safety officer working face-to-face in our neighbourhoods, the mechanic keeping the kit roadworthy, to the finance team tracking every single penny, from the learning development staff to the stores crews to the receptionist greeting every visitor at headquarters, and yes, right through to the chief making the hard strategic calls at the very top. Because this topic or conversation affects all of us. And we all have a role to play in where we go next. I want to talk about a unique but powerful element of our culture. I want to talk about leadership and about something we don't always name, but many of us feel, that is low agency and learned helplessness. So let's start with this agreed truth. We are brilliant under pressure. On the fireground, we respond with courage, clarity, and calm. But when the sirens fade and we're back at base, back on the station, something quieter creeps in. A different kind of challenge. Doesn't necessarily wear any PPE, doesn't turn out on blue lights, but it hides in the backgrounds of our meetings, our conversations, and our policies. It's a culture where people stop trying, not because they don't care, but because they've learned that caring doesn't always lead to change. We call that learned helplessness, and it's real. You see it in people waiting to be told what to do, in great ideas that never leave the watchroom or the meeting, in nods of agreement that are really silent resignations. People who once burned with energy now play it safe, keep their heads down, or leave the service, because somewhere along the way, they learn that speaking up can come at a cost. And here's the irony. We complain about a lack of innovation, a passive workforce, and the low pace of change, without recognizing we have built the very systems that stifle those things. These terms, leadership, low agency, and what psychologists call learned helplessness, and how these forces, often invisible, really do shape the culture of the UK Fire and Rescue Service more than we realise. This isn't about pointing fingers, it's about pointing thumbs and holding up a mirror and choosing to see, not just look away. So let's start here. Most of us came into this job because we want to serve, right? To make a difference. We're proud of our traditions, our camaraderie, our mission, the purpose, what we do, and rightly so. But somewhere between the blue lights and the station routine, something quieter and harder to name took root. I'm talking about a culture where people begin to believe that their voice doesn't matter, that good ideas will get buried, that nothing really changes no matter how much passion you bring. In psychological terms, it's learned helplessness. This was a theory developed by a guy called Martin Seligman and Stephen Mayer back in the 60s. Their research found that when individuals are repeatedly exposed to situations where they have no control over the outcome, they eventually stop trying, even when opportunities for genuine change do later appear. And I can't help but wonder, does that sound a bit like parts of our services? So let me break it down. Low agency is the sense that you can't influence your environment. It's the firefighter who no longer offers suggestions during debriefs because what's the point? It's the watch manager who stops submitting ideas because they know it'll disappear into the void of consultation. It's the crew member who has the courage to speak out once, but never again after the cold silence that follows. It's not laziness. It's not apathy. It's something that's been learned and conditioned. We've created an ecosystem, often unintentionally, where risk-taking is punished, where challenge is mistaken for insubordination, and where emotional safety is more of an aspiration than a reality. And yet we still ask, why isn't anyone stepping up with new ideas? Now, I really do want to be very, very clear here. This is not a slam on the fire and rescue service. I love this job. I love the people. I love what we do. I run a freaking podcast about it, for God's sake. But we have to reckon with a real contradiction. We respond to emergencies with world-class professionalism. But internally, when it comes to innovation, culture, change, or inclusion, we often wait. We defer. We say, it's not my place. And if we don't talk about it, we'll just keep repeating it. There's a really good study by Deci and Ryan on self-determination theory, an evidence-based framework that's gained serious traction in lots of leadership and education. You might be familiar with it. It says that human motivation depends on three core things: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So autonomy means feeling like you have a say. Competence means really believing your skills matter. And relatedness is that deep need to feel valued and connected. Now, think about your station or department or team or service. When someone suggests an idea, one, do they feel heard? When someone challenges the process, are they respected or are they silenced? If any of those three elements, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, are missing, motivation withers, agency drops, and learned helplessness sets in. And before long, what you've got is what we've got: a really talented, passionate workforce going through the motions. Even our leadership pipelines reflect this. Promotion often follows time served, never emotional intelligence. We still train officers for operational command, which we should, but we skimp on how to build trust, have difficult conversations, or coach someone who's struggling. And I say this not as someone who's figured it out. I'm a walking bin fire. I've had to try and unlearn a lot of this through my own addictions and therapy and coaching and mentoring and the 400 and something guests we've had on the podcast. I've stayed silent when I should have spoken up in the early days of my career. I've found myself following along when I should have challenged it. But that's what leadership really is, isn't it? It's not about being faultless. It's about being honest. And that starts with yourself first. So let's take a minute to talk about culture. Culture isn't what we write in the mission statements. It's not the poster in the hallway. It's what really happens when nobody's watching. Culture is built by the behaviors we reward and the ones we ignore. A great quote I often reference from one of our recent guests, Vicky Shakespeare, was, "You are what you protect." That one really hit. That's why just culture is such an important idea, especially in high-risk professions like ours. James Reeson, who was a pioneer in human error research, said it best: "We need systems that distinguish between blameless mistakes and reckless behavior." But here's the catch. You can't have a just culture without psychological safety. That's Amy Edmondson's term. And her studies at Harvard show that psychological safety is a number one factor in whether teams innovate, collaborate, and improve. Without it, people just play small. They hide errors. They protect themselves over the team. Sound familiar? Low agency isn't apathy. It's exhaustion. It comes from feeling that your voice doesn't matter, that permission is always needed, that leadership is about command, not collaboration, that being curious or challenging the norm puts a target on your back. We've inherited this culture, and in many ways, we've unconsciously perpetuated it. Leadership still too often follows tenure, not talent. People are still promoted for operational command, not people leadership. And command and control, while essential on the instant ground, still dominates in places that it shouldn't. We hear terms like just culture and empowerment, but how often do we really live them? Here's the truth. Culture is not a memo. It's not a campaign. It's the behaviors we tolerate, the courage we reward, the conversations we avoid. And it's shaped every single day by all of us, including me. And that means we have the power. We don't need to wait for someone else to fix it. We are the someone. If you're on the watch floor, that might mean speaking up for someone who's being excluded, as a simple example. Asking questions, not just taking orders. Bringing an idea to life, even if it's small. If you're in a leadership role, it's about being visible, being real, saying, I don't know, creating space for challenge, making your meetings safe for honesty, not just updates from the team. And let's maybe name this too. Leadership isn't about rank. It's about responsibility and authenticity and walk the walk, not just talk about values on paper. Our own NFCC leadership framework gives us the map. I mean, it says clearly things around, and I'll probably misquote them, but leadership is not bound by role or rank. Create environments where people can thrive, encourage innovation and curiosity. These aren't just bullet points for posters, folks. They're a challenge to change how we lead. Because if we don't model vulnerability, curiosity, and courage, can we really expect it from anybody else? It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you. And we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, incident debriefs, and so much more. A growing collection of valuable resources to help you learn and grow. Your support in whatever way, dropping it in the WhatsApp group, sharing it on the local newsletter, whatever it is, it's incredibly valuable and we really do support it. And we need it to make it a long-lasting resource, that legacy resource we always talk about for first responders, firefighters, and everybody everywhere who's ever been interested in joining the fire service. Now, if you're already supporting something, as many people do, it's totally cool. You can still access the podcast for free and you'll always be able to access all the new episodes for free. But we're asking for your help to make this sustainable. And we want to keep growing, we want to keep sharing the insights, and we want to keep showcasing the incredible work happening in our community and our sector. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes. So, okay, what can we do about it? I'm not going to pretend to have the answers, but I get very privileged to have a lot of conversations with people that have walked this path in different sectors. And we start where we are, yes. But these are just some thoughts that can move us from a culture of helplessness to one of higher agency. Leadership without permission. Imagine it. Don't wait to be invited. The NFCC leadership framework says around leadership is not bound by role or rank. That means every firefighter, every watch manager, every admin in the back office has the right and responsibility to lead from where they are. Challenge the system, not the person. This is a big one in a place filled with egos. Learn to separate critique from conflict. Challenge a process isn't disrespect, it's improvement. We need to train ourselves and our teams to receive feedback and invest, not insult each other. We've got to create spaces for voices. We know that, we're doing that. Make it safe to speak, really safe. That means responding, not reacting. Listening to respond, not react. Something I've had to learn a lot on the podcast. It means listening with curiosity, not defensiveness. It means rewarding the courage it takes to challenge the room. The big one of the biggest ones for me is building reflective leaders, supporting officers and becoming actual people leaders, not just incident commanders, introducing more coaching, which is difficult in our sector. And we're wrestling with how that looks for a lot of people, developing emotional intelligence, encouraging vulnerability, because we can't expect people to care about the outcomes if we don't care about the people. I always say people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. You kind of have to start from that point in mind. This is how I feel anyway. And you got to model what you want to see. Culture you walk past is the culture you accept or promote. So whether you're a firefighter or a chief or everything in between, if you want more voice, more innovation, more courage, be the first to show it. Some of these things, they're not massively complex, but they are powerful. Redefining what we think of with leadership, rewarding those who lift others up, not just who tick boxes, training people for agency, giving firefighters the tools to think critically, influence change, and lead from wherever they are in the organization. A big one for me is flattening hierarchies where you can. Not everything needs a gold or silver lining to get approved. How many times do you see the email thread bounce its way up the line before someone has the leadership courage to approve it? We've got to welcome healthy dissent. Feedback isn't insubordination. It's a sign that people still care. They are interested. Aside from that, you just get complete disengagement and apathy. We like to point fingers. We don't like to point thumbs. If you're a leader, ask the hard question. What is it like to be led by me? And you might already know a bit of that if you look into your personal life, if you have a group of friends, or if you're lucky enough to have a family. or even if you chose not to have a family, these things show up in our home life as well. It's not about blame. All of this it's about responsibility. It's about admitting that we've all, myself included, played it safe, chosen comfort over courage. And that's okay. What matters now is that we choose differently going forward. One of my favorite quotes, the best time to plant a tree was 5 years ago. Second best time is now. Because here's what I believe, deep in my absolute bones. We are definitely capable of so much more. I think the fire service is the best kept secret of the emergency services. I just think we do a horrific job at times, not always, of looking after each other. And we do a terrible job of showing the community how great it can be to be in this role and how much support can come from this. And we've seen it in the podcast. We did a fundraiser for 2 firefighter fatalities recently, and the outcry was overwhelming, to say the least. So we can do this. We are capable of it. We don't need to wait for a national review, another horrific report, another working group, or a policy change. We can start now, today, maybe even right now, in this minute where you are, on your own watch, in our own voice, through our own examples. So I want to kind of finish with, the future of the fire service isn't written yet. Me or no one else is going to be here to save it. The fire service was here fine long before me or any of us arrived, and it will be here long after. We're custodians of it. But the future of the fire service isn't written yet. We get to choose whether it's one where people stay silent, keep their heads down, and just wait for permission or promotion, or one where people are encouraged to lead, to care, to act. We're not powerless, even though it feels that way sometimes. In fact, if there's any profession that understands resiliency, courage, and adaptation, it's this one, right? So let's not let our own culture be the fire we never tried to put out, if you excuse the cringy pun. Let's lead better. Let's build a service that not only saves lives, but uplifts the people who serve within them. I hope you found some of this useful. You've been listening to the Firefighters podcast. If this episode struck a chord, let me know. I write a lot of stuff. Most of it never sees the light of day. If this hit something for you, share it with someone. Give us some feedback. Start that conversation. Point less fingers, more thumbs. Hold up the mirror. And if you're feeling stuck, remember this. You have more agency than you think. The culture of our services will be shaped by the conversations we dare to have and the leadership we choose to show. So let's be the generation that didn't just wear the badge, but transformed what it meant for those who are part of it. Let's stop teaching people to stand still and start helping them to move forward together. It won't be easy, but damn it, it'll be worth it. I'll see you next time. Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters Podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, live with intention, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.